Tuesday Tunes for Realtors. Tuesday Tunes for Realtors. You know, this is really not a tool, but when I talk about tools, and I'm talking about tools and systems, so something that you can use. And if you listen to me and if you follow what Dr. Karen is saying, if you follow it, you will make money. But the key is you won't do it. And you know, I have a lot of agents that I talk to, and they rather go out and spend money, and there's nothing wrong with it because I want you to. They will go out and spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on something that somebody has sold them a dream and they get it, but they don't do anything with it. If you follow me, even if it's just every Tuesday for Tuesday Tools, you will get some nuggets, but the key is you have to execute it. So I'm talking about putting systems in place. Your back end should be so smooth that if a first grader came and followed and read the instructions, read the directions, they would know what to do. That's putting systems in place. Here's one that all agents should have in the beginning, because when we start the business, the first things that we work with normally is a buyer. We don't come busting the gates out with listings. You know, maybe one day we'll switch that, but right now we're still, when we come out in real estate, then number one, we start working with buyers. Create you a system for your buyer, because what you're doing, you're thinking for the end, you're thinking for the future, you're forward thinking. Create it in the beginning. Do one step at a time. Say, for instance, the conversation that you have with the buyer when you first meet it, write that script out. Yes, write it out. You can tweak it always, right? So when you get so many deals in the pipeline, then you're going to have somebody come and follow you. And so when you have the buyer script in there, you don't have to teach them no more. You don't have to train them because you already have your script. Not only that, you have your objections on when you're talking to a buyer. After you have your buyers, then you have the buyer's consultation. You have that set up. When you have your timeline set up, you have the contract set up. You have all of those things set up in order. The process from the beginning to the end, you have an email or a text or a video when you're doing the inspection. We know we have to do inspection, so you can create an email and let your buyer know that, hey, this is the way that it's going to go. One of the biggest systems that I'm going to tell you right now, this is all a part of the system because we're talking about buyer's consultation. So let that be your first system. Put your first system working with buyers in place. So, but one of the biggest things that I would do with my clients, my prospects every day, every week, especially active clients, I would have a system where I call them. I call it Tuesday Talk. And some clients still laugh at me now and say, Dr. Karen, I missed the Tuesday Talk. Every Tuesday, I call my clients. Now, if I have information during the course of the week, I'll call them with an update. But no matter what, every Tuesday, I call them. And I'll call them if I have some information, a lot of information, or no information. Bad news, good news, it doesn't matter. I still call them. And so what happens with that, you're building that relationship. So if that deal blow up in your face because you've been active with that buyer or that seller. So what happens once you've been active with them, they won't be so mad at you because you've gotten a relationship. But if you haven't talked to that buyer or seller and then the deal blows up, they are going to be fuming at you. They're going to call you, well, maybe they'll call you names. I hope they don't get that far. But I've had it where I call the people every week and I establish a relationship with them. So I was like family, and I told them I'm family. And the deal did not go through, but they could not get so mad at me. You know, had I not been talking to them, they really probably would have been mad at me. Eventually, we ended up closing it with another buyer because I had to sell them. But we had another one, but it was from my system. I had a system in place. I had Tuesday Talk that I would call my clients and I let them know. I don't text on no major issues when it comes to my clients. I'm not texting. I don't care what it is. If they want to counter offer, we're going to have a conversation. I'm not texting them saying, buyer said they'll put $350 in instead of $300, or seller said. I'm not doing that. Text sometimes can get misconstrued. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not saying never do it, but for the most time, start talking to your clients. Get from under always emailing and texting all the time, especially on serious conversations. Unless your client says, I never want to talk to you, I only want to communicate via text, via email. And when you do that, put a system in place. Create all the emails, create all the text. That's all a part of the system. So what I say to you now, your homework is for Tuesday Tools for Realtors is to follow systems, create systems step by step, where a first grader can jump in and understand everything. Start working with your buyer system from the beginning to the end, from getting on the phone, meeting that buyer, and from meeting that buyer, and after you meet that buyer, then what happens is then you get to the end. Then once you complete the process, then you go to the next one. So that's your system. That's your system. That's Dr. Karen, Tuesday Tools for Realtors.